I mocked his size as a joke. He removed his ring and walked away without looking back. I laughed. It started as a joke, light, teasing, nothing serious. The music in the wedding hall thumped, guests swirling around me, faces glowing under chandeliers. And I thought I was clever, funny. "I hope your other talents are better than your size," I whispered, leaning close to the groom I'd always considered harmless. The laughter that followed should have been enough to warn me. But I didn't notice the subtle shift, the stillness behind his eyes, the tightening of his jaw, the way he swallowed like he had swallowed every humiliation silently for 10 years. I watched him, expecting embarrassment, maybe a grimace, maybe even a chuckle to diffuse the tension. Nothing. His hand moved slowly to his ring finger. I thought he was adjusting it. I was wrong. He slipped it off. I froze. The crowd continued laughing around us, oblivious. I stared, and he walked away, without looking back. I could hear the clicking of his shoes over the marble floor. Each step echoed in my chest like a hammer against fragile glass. And I knew. Something inside me cracked. We'd been married 10 years. 10 years of shared mornings, whispered arguments, stolen kisses, mundane dinners, and promises too easily repeated. I thought I knew him, every twitch, every silence, every unspoken thought. I had been wrong. I followed him outside, into the quiet of the empty courtyard. The night was warm, humid, heavy with the scent of roses from the wedding decor. I tried to joke again, tried to explain. "It was just a joke," I said. He didn't respond. Not a word. Only his eyes, black and stormy, locked on mine. They were no longer the eyes I remembered. Something had shifted. Something permanent. "Are you serious?" I whispered, voice trembling. Still nothing. Just a slow turn, a step away. My heart hammered. I felt the first pangs of fear, not for myself, but for what I had just destroyed. 10 years, gone, a single careless word. The anger in his silence was terrifying, cold, calculated. I replayed it in my mind. Had I always mocked him subtly, perhaps during dinner parties, casual comments in front of friends, little digs that I convinced myself were playful? I had crossed the line, and this time, he wouldn't forget. I tried to call him back inside, tried to explain again. My voice cracked, breaking under the weight of what I had done. "You don't understand. I didn't mean." His hand went to his coat pocket. I followed every movement like a hawk, heart racing. Then he turned the corner and was gone. Gone. I spent the next day replaying every interaction we'd had in the last month, the last year. Every time I had teased him, every time I had laughed at a joke he didn't get, every time I had pushed boundaries. With friends and family. I realized now that I hadn't just mocked him, it was deeper. It was a challenge, a test. I tried to reach him, phone calls unanswered, messages ignored. Even texts sent with fake cheerfulness were returned with silence. I felt my stomach tighten every time the silence greeted me. I decided to check the camera footage from the wedding venue. Maybe, just maybe, I could see what he saw. I wanted to know the exact moment he decided I had gone too far. I saw it. Me laughing, leaning into him, making that comment. His jaw stiffened, his eyes darkened, and then the subtle turning away, the quiet removal of the ring. He didn't yell, he didn't cry, he didn't scream. He simply decided that the line had been crossed. I realized then that my husband had always been quieter than I had thought. He was a storm contained in a teacup, patient, simmering, and when it finally erupted, he would disappear. I began piecing together every moment, every subtle sign I had ignored. The dinners when he had barely touched his food. The nights he had slept silently, staring at the ceiling. The times he had forced a smile at my jokes that weren't funny. I had ignored him, thinking he was soft, easy, forgiving. And now, he was gone. 3 days later he returned. Not to me, not to apologize. He sent a lawyer, a package. Inside was the letter, our marriage certificate, signed paperwork for separation, his signature sharp and deliberate, and a note, cold as ice. I hope this teaches you the value of respect. I won't return until you can understand it. I read the words over and over. The power in them burned me from the inside. I had thought I could manipulate situations, laugh off offenses, make everything light. But I had been naive. He wasn't the type to react in fury, to yell or beg. He reacted with silence, strategic, controlled, unforgiving. I saw the truth clearly then. My husband's love had been quiet, reserved, patient. My betrayal, though small in my eyes, was monumental to him. And he had chosen an exit that left me with only my reflection and the enormity of my mistake. I tried to see him, to talk, to beg, to apologize, but he did not return my calls. I went to the places he frequented, parks, cafes, offices, and he was not there. His absence was a punishment, a lesson in patience, dignity, and control. And as I waited, helpless, I realized he had already won. He had removed the drama from the situation entirely. I had mocked him. I had humiliated him in public, but he had taken the high ground, quietly, efficiently, and devastatingly. I wanted revenge, not against him, but against myself. I realized that no amount of apologies, tears, or explanations could bring him back. He had taken control. He had regained power, and I was left with the consequences of my words. Weeks passed. I saw him once, from a distance, standing under a tree, calm, composed, his posture perfect, a silent reminder of his power over me. I realized that my love, my life, my privilege of having him beside me had been conditional. My mocking had stripped me of it. I no longer feared him. I no longer hated him. I respected him, even in absence. He had walked away, yes, but in doing so he had taught me the ultimate lesson, that respect, patience, and self-control could be more terrifying than any scream or fight. I let go. I stopped calling. I stopped messaging. I stopped waiting. And in that release, I found clarity. The ring he had removed was never returned. Neither was he. And I understood the final truth. Some lessons are only learned when silence replaces laughter, absence replaces presence, and dignity replaces anger. I laughed once more, quietly, privately, bitterly, this time at myself. And I knew he would never come back, not because he was cruel, but because he was wiser than I could ever imagine. I was alone, yes, but I had learned the cost of carelessness, and it burned brighter than any public humiliation ever could. I would never forget.
How could you do this?